We are at the end of that very famous passage in Matthew chapter 5 called the Beatitudes. And we're at the explanation point. What do I mean by that? All of the other times, Jesus has kind of a two-line truth. And then from verse 10 through 12, he makes his very big point. What is that point? Well, let's read it. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Now, I have to be very careful in our super contentious world to ask you this question. Are you offensive because you're offensive? Or are you offensive because of the gospel? What do I mean by that? You see, sometimes in our very, very convoluted, conflicted online world, we can read these verses and say, oh, if people hate me, then I'm doing right. And that's not what Jesus is teaching. In fact, what he's actually teaching you here is there's two qualifications for when you can be offensive. Here's the first one. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. When you stand up ethically and it causes a contrary response, that's not the offense of being offensive. That's the offense of righteousness. And then he says this, blessed are you when people insult you, etc., because of me. When you are insulted because of your association with Christ and who he was and what his heart was, that's the offense of the gospel, not the offense of being offensive. When you're just mean and rude, there's a lot of mean and rudeness in Christians out there, or people naming the name of Christ out there. I had this guy come on my campus one time. He gets up on a chair and he just starts yelling at people. He's calling people different names and just being rude. And afterwards I went to him, I said, listen, you blow up my whole campus, then you leave, and I'm left to clear up the mess. He says, well, if you don't get people to hate you, you're not a real Christian. Nothing could be further from the truth. That's the offense of being offensive. He was just trying to be offensive. My friend, how do I know when I have the offense of being offensive versus the offense of the truth of the gospel? Well, it's simple. Am I obeying? Am I living? Am I modeling all of the other Beatitudes? You see, when I come with a spirit that's mourning, in other words, an attitude that can feel the pain of others, I'm not going to be offensive for the sake of offensive. When I come with an impoverished spirit, knowing that I myself am a sinner, I'm not going to be offensive for the sake of being offensive. When I come and I actually want to be a peacemaker, in the exact same way Jesus was a peacemaker with me, then I'm not going to be offensive for the sake of being offensive. What is the offense of the gospel then? Well, it's simply telling people that I'm a sinner and they're a sinner too. That's all it is. It's saying there's no way I can make it to heaven on my own righteousness. I am deeply impoverished of spirit. I am spiritually poor. And unless Christ comes to this earth and dies in my place, unless he makes peace with the Father for me, I can't have relationship with the Father. We don't like that. Not us Americans. We want to be independent. We want to do our own thing. We want to take control. I had one guy say to me once, he said, listen, I need you to lead, Pastor Kurt, and don't give me any of that turning your cheek stuff. Listen, we are all sinners. And sometimes when you tell people they're sinners, and especially when you admit that you're a sinner yourself, well, you're going to get some opposition. You're going to get some pushback. And that's normal. That's to be expected. You can't get around that. Not if you're really going to follow Christ. So, my friend, today, let's try hard to not be offensive for the sake of offense. But let's not be ashamed of living the gospel that says we're all sinners, even if it creates the offense of the gospel.